to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please. Larry Cohen.
Here.
Betsy Dennis.
Here.
Jennifer Edge. Absent. Tracy Annalek Everett. Excused. Christine Galvo. Delaney. Frank Garnett.
Here.
George Patchen. Here. Bill Zapp.
Here.
Liz Thompson.
Here. Dr. Gore, would you review the fire exits?
Yes, there's two fire exits at the rear of the LGI.
Could everyone please stand for a moment of silence for Mrs. Margot Solis Ramsey, a retired teacher in the Beacon City School District. Thank you. Dr. Gore, would you like to introduce our workshop?
Yes, we have two parts to the workshop this evening. First, we're going to start off with Dr. Sieverding, who I believe came back in, is going to introduce the valedictorian and salutatorian.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Now, when I introduce the valedictorian and the salutatorian to you this evening, you will hear me say to you and describe the qualities of these young women. They have so much in common with one another. Both are described as determined, tenacious, diligent, conscientious, intelligent, having great potential, community-minded as far as community service is concerned, both carrying a very difficult and rigorous coursework, great leadership potential, and also very compassionate. So now all I have to do is to say, here's our valedictorian and here's our salutatorian. That would be so wrong, because each of them, both of these young ladies, both in their own way, are also very different from one another, and they stand apart from the rest. So let me talk to you a little bit about our valedictorian, Adele Antelek. Adele, if you would come up, please. Adele, in addition to all these other qualities that I talked about, her leadership skills are evident as the tennis team captain. She has outstanding organizational skills and that allow her to complete multiple tasks with favorable results. She's active in our school community and is a member of many different organizations, such as the National Honor Society, being a student athlete. Also, she's a member of the Student Council, the Cycling Club, the Math Club, the yearbook staff. She's also in our band and teaches lessons to others. I also indicated that she's very compassionate toward others, and she makes education a priority. Her academic awards and honors include the Principal's Honor Roll, being very active in the National Honor Society. She studies math and science, completed the National Youth Leadership Forum on Medicine, and also she participated in an IBM Project Lead. She's also earned many scholar athletic awards, and she's a talented musician. Possessing a desire to make a difference in her community, she volunteers countless service hours to others. Over the past 4 years, these service hours have included the Avon Walk for Breast Cancer, the Poughkeepsie Soup Kitchen volunteer, and providing academic tutoring to others. As soon as she was able to walk in that 40-mile event for the breast awareness fundraiser, Adele did so and has done so yearly. So I present to you Adele Antellect, our valedictorian for the Beacon High School graduating class.
Thank you.
Our salutatorian is Brittany Grahowski. Brittany? As indicated earlier, Brittany is also very different in the sense of what she's done at Beacon High School over the past 4 years. Brittany will have her Advanced Regents Diploma with honors in mathematics and science, and she's also carrying a course load that is very rigorous and demanding. A member of the National Honor Society, she is very involved in serving both the school and the community through volunteering, fundraising, food drives, coat drives, peer tutoring. Brittany shows her generosity and compassion through the type of volunteer work that she does. She has delivered meals to shut-ins on Thanksgiving through the Knights of Columbus. She volunteers at the Knights of Columbus 26-week club to serve food. She's also delivered flowers to people without families in nursing homes at Christmas. And as part of the National Honor Society, she volunteers her time to run the after-school school concession. And what that group does, it raises money for our own Beacon High School students who do not have funds to buy books, supplies, etc. So a group of students got together to raise money so they can help them as they go through the high school years. Whether it's just, a coat, a book, or lunch money for the week, that's what it comes down to for some of our students. She's truly a giving person. She has incredible time management skills. She's a volunteer firefighter. She's a member of the math club. And she also works as a recreational assistant in the Beacon High School Fitness Center. She's also an athlete, scholar athlete since 2011. She participated in the junior varsity basketball and volleyball teams and the varsity volleyball and golf teams. She has a passion for mathematics. And I will tell you that having read and talked to people about Brittany, we are going to be sending her to Quinnipiac University in Connecticut, where she's going to enroll in an accounting business program, where in 3 years she'll get her bachelor's, and the 4th year she'll have a master's degree. So I present you Brittany Grahowski. And I failed to mention that Adele will be going to SUNY Geneseo.
Thank you, and congratulations to both of you. We're very proud. The second portion of the workshop is actually the budget hearing. So we'll be going through a more in-depth budget review. I'll be joining Ms. Corderoni for that, and then as a hearing, there's an opportunity for questions from people in the audience.
Good evening. Welcome to the budget hearing for the Beacon City School District for the 2014-15 school year. Our 14-15 proposed budget, we start out with numbers. Our budget to budget increase is 3.31%. Our tax levy increase is 2.29%. The proposed budget minimizes the impact of the cuts we had, some of the cuts we had to make, and it maintains a current level of the academic programs that are offered here in Beacon. I put this slide in here just to show you how complicated the tax cap calculation is, and I'm not going to go into a great detail, but the important part is the bottom. So after the controller's office comes in and assists in making sure that this tax cap is within the regulations, Beacon City School District's cap is at 2.29%. As you just saw on the prior slide, that's exactly where we're going on a budget-to-budget increase. So we're right at the cap calculation. To put the tax levy into perspective, the 5-year average prior to the tax cap, and as you remember, this is the 3rd year of the tax cap since Governor Cuomo put that into law. So our 5-year average had been 3.4%. And as you can see, 12-13, 13-14, and what we're proposing for 14-15. So we're all around the 2%. 2.29% is less than what we had asked last year at 2.79%. The cost savings in a proposed budget is difficult. We worked hard. We had many workshops throughout the winter. We had each department and director come and present their budget. These are some of the areas that we were able to maintain that 2.29% levy without cutting program. We have 5 teacher retirements in the district. We were careful to do cost containment in budget areas. And basically what that meant is except for salary increases, contractual salary increases, and benefit increases, all the other budget codes remained the same. And as you know, things go up, so we had to cut back in certain areas, which we were able to do. Frugal debt management is an important part. We had, in the past, refinanced, or as it's called in a school district, refunded some of our debt. And as you know, the interest rate for the debt has gone down, so it's like refinancing your home. We were able to capture some of the lower interest rates that were available. In negotiated agreements, we were able to have all of our, we have one unit that's not, does not have a contract, but for the most part, all the others have a negotiated agreement. We were able to reach an agreement this year with the teachers and the administrators, so that was helpful in doing the budget process. So, 3 parts of the budget. So that whole budget that we're going to present has to be broken out into 3 specific areas. So again, with a lot of numbers, but this shows a comparison of the final budget for 13-14 and the proposed 14-15. I just want to give you just a little bit of an idea of what's included in these areas. The administrative area, if you look at the budget codes, would include any expenses relating to the Board of Education, the Superintendent's Office, the Business Office, the Auditing, the Office for the Assistant Superintendent for Instruction, administrative costs for BOCES, the insurance, the printing, the building administrators and their clerical staff, their salaries, pupil personnel, the director and the assistant director, and their salaries and their support staff and the benefits relating. Sometimes when you see the word administrative, it just people kind of gravitate towards it meaning just administrators, but it does include a lot more things in that area. The instructional area would include basically everything you would think that has to relate to children. So teachers, special education, the school library, the media services, psychology, social work, the interscholastic activities, the transportation, and any of the community services that we have and all the benefits related to those salaries in there. So the administrative, obviously in a school district, would be the most important and the highest area in there. And the capital portion is the operations and maintenance. It's the debt service that we just talked about. It's the principal and interest payments on the loans that we have, special items as judgment and claims, and any transfers between the funds, and then any benefits relating to salaries in there. So that's the legal way that we need to present the budget. It shows the increases and the overall budget-to-budget increase.
Oops. So, as we were preparing the budget, if you were able to join us throughout the budget season, we had a series of workshops. During those workshops, we had presentations from the various departments, transportation, people, personnel services, and so on. And one of the things we were very careful to point out as we were going through that, it was an opportunity for the various groups to share their thoughts on where we're headed with the budget. But until the budget was finalized, we wouldn't tell you what was going to be in there. So one of the things that I do want to point out, because it's not on this list, is there was initially a proposal for 2 additional sports teams. They were part of the budget workshop. They did not make it into the final budget. Additionally, On a previous slide, we had put up there that there was retirements in the district. One of those positions is not going to be filled. So there's a high school guidance counselor position that will not be filled. We've had some questions that have come up around that. What I would share with you, just for frame of reference, when the high school opened, we had around 1,200 students. Now our number is down to closer to 900 students. So we believe that it's an appropriate measure and still trying to maintain the student to guidance counselor ratio. Last year, as part of the budget process, similar to this year, you had the initial governor's run, and then when the budget was finally passed, there was some additional monies that the state gave us. Last year when that happened, the district was able to add in some additional music positions, but even at that time, the conversation was that if we didn't have the funds in the future, we'd have to revisit that. So we did ultimately decide to include the 1.4 music positions that were added last year, to have those come out, still maintaining the overall music program, basically taking us back to where we were last year at this time. We have a French position that's going to 0.4 at the high school. This is a continuation of a phase out of the French program that began last year. So the current year we did have a full 1.0 French position. Next year it would be 0.4. We have an open school monitor position in the high school that we will not be filling. We have 3 school bus monitor positions that have been open to various degrees throughout the school year. And I know that a question came up on this previously, so let me expand a little bit. If a student has a requirement as part of their IEP to have a school bus monitor, we have to provide that. We have the ability, or made the decision some years ago, to also have monitors on almost every bus, not required by the IEP. These are non-IEP positions that I'm referring to. So these are 3 positions that are not driven by IEP, but they will not be filled for next year. Additionally, we have 4 12-month security positions. What we're going to be doing for next year is taking 3 out of those 4 and turning them into 10-month positions. That will leave us with 1 12-month position that will have to be a little bit more flexible in the scheduling. We believe that will take care of our security needs during the summer. And then finally, we have a custodial worker position that's been open. We will not be filling that. As an end result, we'll end up having a shared position between the middle school and high school, in part because they're close enough together that we can do that.
So this slide basically gives the revenue side, how we're going to pay for the budget that we're proposing. Most important information on this slide, differences from last year to this year. The transfer from debt service line, which is about 3 from the bottom. On that prior slide, when I talked about frugal debt management, we talked about refunding. So there was money that we had put aside into the debt service fund that is part of the refunding we were systematically going to use to help keep the levy low. So that's the amount that's coming into the 14-15 school year. The tax reduction reserve we started using last year. A reminder, that is, we received a little over $1 million when we sold Old Beacon High School, and we put it into this tax reduction reserve, and that reserve must be used systematically to reduce the levy. So this is the second year of 4 years of planning. That money needs to be used within a 10-year period. In the first couple of years that we had it in the reserve, we did not need to use it, so now we're systematically drawing it down. The state aid number, as you can see, the comparison from last year to this year, we received an additional $900,000 in state aid, which is great. So it made our jobs a little bit easier to try to maintain the program. And then the tax levy, again, the top number on the tax levy, the 2.29, again, that number still ties to the tax cap, and that's the increase that we're going to put out to the voters next week. We also, as part of the budget, we also are going to ask you to vote on a bus proposition, which we have done in the past. So we systematically, if you had been here for Mr. Mackey's presentation, he talks about the number of vehicles, the number of routes. The PowerPoint for the transportation is on the website if you're interested in getting all the statistics part of it. But we systematically replace buses every year to try to keep the fleet up to date. So this proposition, we're asking for 272 passenger buses. We're asking for a wheelchair bus and one 20-passenger van. The difference between this year and last year, we are going to finance the buses over a 5-year period. We had done that several years ago, and the principal and interest payment is actually offset by the transportation state aid that we receive, because we receive back 57.7% in state aid to offset the principal and interest on the buses. And again, just a reminder about the role of the transportation department, because one thinks that it's just to bring students to and from school, which is an extremely important part of what the buses do. But we also service all of the sports trips, which sometimes are challenging at best. We do the work programs. We have a school-to-work program out of the high school that we manage to do during the day. After-school programs. So we have special bus runs set up mainly for the elementary schools right before state testings for IRP. They service some of the field trips. It's difficult to do the faraway trips because they need to be here for the regular routes, but the trips that happen during the day, we're able to manage that. 504 medical requests and displaced students. Displaced students meaning homeless students that if a student is classified as homeless, we are required to bring them back to Beacon, even if they live farther away than the outskirts of the city school district. So these couple of slides just gives everybody an idea of exactly what we're talking about for each person. So every year I tend to break it out to what the levy will mean for each person and how much money it will cost in addition. So we use the median assessed value. So the median assessed value in the city of Beacon is about $290,500. And assuming that you're going to qualify for Basic Star, for the budget alone, it's $121 per year. And the budget and the bus proposition is $131 a year. So that's the total increase for the year. So if you look at it on a monthly basis, it's about $10.92 a month. And if you want to look at it per day, it's 36 cents per day. And that's for the city of Beacon. Town of Fishkill. The median assessed value in the town of Fishkill is $353,500, again with Basic Star. The budget increase alone would be $141, and the budget and the bus proposition together would be $153 for the whole year. On a monthly basis, that's about $12.75 per month, or 42 cents per day. And last, the town of Wappingers. So median assessed value in the town of Wappingers is $350,500 with Basic Star. The budget alone is $143. The budget and the bus proposition together in total is $156 per year. So that breaks out to $13 per month or 43 cents per day. So that gives you a little bit more realistic idea of when you're going out to vote how much this will actually cost when your tax bills come in September. So the next subject talks about contingency. And contingency within the last few years when the tax cap was brought into law makes life a little more difficult for school districts. Contingency budget used to be that you're able to increase the budget by a cost of living amount. But when the tax cap came into being, they changed the laws of the contingency budget. So basically, you cannot levy the tax for more than what you did last year. So in essence, that's a 0% increase from last year to this year. So after Dr. Dorward had spoken about the cost savings that we had done and the programs that we were able to maintain, if we had to go to contingency budget, we would still have to cut an additional $789,000, which is pretty significant to actually cut the programs. So again, we just need to kind of give the public an idea of the things that the board would have to look at if we had to go to contingency. So some of these are mandatory laws, so cutting all equipment purchases that were not, they're not health and safety related, we could not do that. We would require all organizations to pay full cost for the use of facilities. Now that's a really important one because there are a lot of community groups that use all of our facilities, mainly Beacon High School, for free if they're a not-for-profit, except for the pool and the theater. So if we had to go to contingency, there's a calculation for fair market value. We'd have to charge people, and that would actually affect the residents that live within the city school district. We would then have to try to reduce and eliminate the building use to try to save energy. We would have to look at athletics, clubs, and student activities at all levels, something that we don't really want to do. We realize how important athletics, clubs, and after-school activities are for all students in the district. We would have to eliminate art, music, and electives other than the bare minimum that's required for high school graduation. So that would be terrible for a lot of the students here in the district. And we'd also have to look to increase class size up to 35, which is, again, something we do not want to do. But those are the kind of things that we would have to look at if we had to face a contingency budget. And also to give you some kind of perspective of where Beacon is in the county, Beacon's total cost per pupil. The county average is $19,201. Beacon spends per student on an average of $18,028. So Beacon ranks 10th out of the 13 districts per pupil cost in Dutchess County. So in summary, this is how we started with the first slide. So our budget increase of 3.31%, that's just going from one year to the next. The more important number to kind of remember is the tax levy increase. The tax levy is the amount that we collect from all of the taxpayers, the 2.29%. And remember, the 2.29% is at the tax cap, and the proposed budget preserves all the current level of programs that we are currently offering in the district. Our budget vote is Tuesday, May 20th, a week from tomorrow. It's from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. Beacon, all City of Beacon residents will vote here in Beacon High School in the gymnasium, and all Fishkill and Wappingers residents will vote at Glenham Elementary School. Okay, I start with the board. Have any questions? No? Okay. Does anyone in the public have any questions? Do you want them to go to the podium, or do you want to?
Probably to hear them would be best.
Okay.
At the podium.
I just want to know, what do we pay BOCES $4 million for?
What do you pay BOCES $4 million for?
Yeah.
The BOCES bill that we pay, most of it has to do with tuition for our special education students. And of the tuition, we get back part of the state aid. So we get high cost aid, which is part of our state aid number. So it's not a lot of programs. If you ask me what the percentage was of the BOCES bill, I'd have to tell you it's mainly for our special education students, the ones that go out of district. Yes.
Is there any question I can ask that's not pertaining to the budget, or
Well,
do I ask later?
we have public session later on, so if you wanted to wait, that would be fine.
No, I'll wait.
Okay.
I have one question.
Yes.
Has this school ever been on the contingency where there has not been a budget passed? In other words, the other budget would kick in if people vote no on your budget?
I've been here almost 10 years, and the only time that we've had a vote go down one time, it only went down once, and then we put it up to revote, and it was voted yes by the public. So that was the only time there. I don't believe that we've ever been in the situation where we had to be in the contingency.
But the important point, one of the main slides you had in there is, under the previous rules, you had to back out any non-contingent items. Under the new rules, if the budget goes down, then ultimately it goes down twice, then it would be to 0%.
Right.
That's where that $790,000 came from. We would have to cut that out. We go to a contingent budget under the new rules.
Yes.
I'm coming down.
Okay.
You want to yell back and forth.
Terry Pendleton, North Walnut Street, Beacon. And my question is, for years I have seen this figure, and I'm wondering where all of this money is. And that's your use of reserves of $3.5 million a year.
Mhm.
Where is that money? And after we use this $3.5 million, how much is left?
That's a good question. So we have reserves on the budget. We have only ones allowed by New York State law. So we have reserves for tax sociaries. So tax sociaries are claims of people trying to reduce their assessment. We have an unemployment reserve. you're going to see how much I have a tax reduction reserve. I have about 6 or 7 reserves that are set up on, they're in our financial statements, and they're basically kind of set aside for reasons. We also have fund balance. So according to New York State law, we're allowed to keep 4% of the budget into fund balance. So as part of the process, and I think you'll find this interesting, when about 10 years ago, and we were in a deficit. So we have the controller's office comes in every single year prior to us putting this budget up to vote, and they determine whether the budget is adequate to pay for all the expenditures in the district. Okay, and they also audit our tax cap since the tax cap came. The one important part that they look at are the reserves. So they look at that, they make sure that we have enough money. The reserves can come from expenditures that we don't incur during the year. So we may build something into the budget, and we may actually come in under budget, and all of that money goes into the fund balance. So I will tell you that the tax sociari reserves, we monitor every year. The auditor does not allow us to keep excess money in there. So we have judgments that are out there. Once they're settled, they're paid, and you'll see that through the board agenda. But we have been reducing the tax sociari reserves because we started setting them up the year everybody went to 100% revaluation. And that was a long time ago. And now people's housing values have come down, and we've been able to put that money away at that time and then use that money to go down. The controller's office would not give us the budget review. We get a review letter, and they would not give us that review letter if they believed that the budget wasn't adequate to pay the expenditures and that we didn't have the adequate reserves to go forward. So we do still maintain 4% fund balance. So we have the fund balance and we have the reserves. We're just able to either get, sometimes we get revenue that we don't anticipate, or we don't spend in a budget code area in expenditures that we had budgeted.
Okay. And my second question is, we get figures from the state, we get figures that you do. My question to you is, why do we eliminate from the budget the money that the state provides us for universal kindergarten? Why is that not included in this budget?
We have to account for the universal pre-K in what we call...
Not pre-K, universal kindergarten.
We don't get special aid for kindergarten. We have a full-day kindergarten program, and our kindergarten students are included in the amount of state aid that we get. If you look at the state aid runs, it's about $370,000. Is that what you're talking about?
$381.
Okay, so that's actually universal pre-K. Okay, so we have a universal pre-K program here in the district. They're half-day programs. And an accounting rule, we have to account for it in this special fund called Special Aid Fund, which is in a federal, it's basically, they consider it a federal grant, but it gets put into the regular state aid. So it's a little confusing because when you look at the total amount, the pre-K number is included in there, but we're not allowed to use it for anything except pre-K. So we have a pre-K program in the district that we pay teachers and teaching assistants, and we have expenditures, and I have to account for that in a separate fund, and then we have to do a report to the state.
But we're spending that money out of this budget, correct? We're spending money out of this budget.
For?
Kindergarten, pre-kindergarten.
Pre-kindergarten. We are spending some of the universal pre-K expenditures, yes, are in the general fund, because our expenditures for pre-K are a little bit more than the money that we get for universal pre-K, yes.
I understand that. But then why can't we push that aid into this budget? We're just eliminating it, we're receiving it, but there's no benefit to the taxpayers. Because...
So basically, I'll just make numbers up just for clarification, okay? Because I don't know them off the top of my head. So we'll round up. So say I get $400,000 for universal pre-K. We may spend $600,000 for the universal pre-K. So $400,000 is in this separate fund. We put the expenditures in to match the $400,000, and then we have an additional expense. So basically, you are getting the revenue. It's accounting term, but the revenue is included. I don't include all of the universal pre-K expenditures in the general fund. I have to account for it separately. So again,
By law?
by law, yes, by law. I don't have a choice as to how I do that. The interesting thing, and we don't have the answers for, and I didn't mention it in my presentation, was that Governor Cuomo passed all of this universal pre-K full-day funding, which most of the money went to New York City, but there is money there, but we have no guidance on that. So our universal pre-K program could change if we were given additional money for pre-K, but there is nothing that has come down from the governor's office yet.
So there's a possibility that down the road,
Right. To be honest with you, I don't know how they determine who gets what amount of money. I know that very few districts get universal pre-K. We get it. I know Poughkeepsie gets it, but not everybody gets universal pre-K money. So we are lucky enough to be able to offer a program here. We have 2 classes in each one of our elementary schools. We have a morning and an afternoon program that we're able to offer the residents, which most school districts aren't able to do that. And the reason is because we get the aid.
okay,
Okay?
thanks.
You're welcome.
Dennis Pavlock, Beacon resident. In light of the positions that we're either not going to fill or decided other ways not to have those positions happen here at the district, what has the district done at the board office to show leadership regarding positions being cut there? And if I'm not mistaken, I understand that leadership starts at the top. So if you start at the top, who got cut at the board office? How many positions were cut at the board office? I see these positions here. Anybody in the board office position was cut? Not going to be filled, or?
Want me to answer that? Sure. So Dennis, you remember last year when Mr. Hilberg was here, we did have some clerical positions at the board office.
Mhm.
The people that retired that we didn't replace. So we didn't cut any additional at the board office because the last year and the year before we had made some systematic changes.
Okay.
So are you referring to any specific?
No, I'm just,
Oh, okay.
I see positions there that cut from the proposed budget. I want to make sure that everybody's on an even keel. If they got to cut positions such as the positions here, I want to make sure the board office is on top leading the way.
Well, and to be honest, these positions here, a lot of them, as you can see in the parentheses, says open positions. So we have kind of been functioning at the school district level without these positions being filled for the whole year.
Okay.
So it's not like people will be losing their jobs, and I think that was the main thing. So we've tried over the years to either not replace open positions or replace someone who's retiring,
Okay.
or not replace on retiring, but not to cut people's positions.
And Dennis, I agree with what you're saying. I think we always have to try to strike a delicate balance between maintaining the program, and that means the academic program, but also the supports that are in place to have the program be successful.
I agree.
But also, we have to be sensitive to the community's ability to pay for that budget. So last year and in previous years, I think there was a little bit more at those areas, and we were able to take care of it by not filling some of the open positions.
Okay.
Okay.
One more question.
Okay.
Regards to the pension increase,
Mm-hmm.
6.38% from the previous year, 25% in the line item. Can you clarify that for me, please?
The pension cost increases come from the state. So we have a teacher's retirement system that covers the teachers and the administrators and the teaching assistants. And the employees' retirement system covers basically everybody else in the district. So that is a pension plan, and people can pay into it for a number of years. Now they've basically changed it, so there's different tiers. There's more tiers involved. But we have absolutely no choice about how much money that it is increased. So you'll see in all of the budget documents, the benefits areas are usually the most, the highest percent of increase. Because the pension costs we have no control over. The health insurance costs are difficult. We are working to kind of look at other options in that area, but that's also difficult. But all the employees do do have money taken out of their pay to actually pay for the health insurance. But the pension costs are kind of off the charts. So I think the state realizes that it's a problem, and it realizes that it's hard to pay for, which is why they changed the tiers, but we still have people under the old rules. So it's difficult. I agree, and it's a lot. The percentages in that area are extremely high. Okay. Does anybody else have any questions? Okay, thank
If
you.
there's no additional questions, just in closing, we'd like to encourage everybody to come out and vote. There's a lot of information available on the school website. We've been trying to get out to visit various groups, but please make sure that you pass the word about the budget vote next week, and please come out yourself to vote. Thank you.
Before we go to executive session, I would just like to congratulate Adele and Brittany on reaching your milestones, and best of luck to both of you as you enter your college years. And please come back and visit us and tell us of your progress. Thank you. Thank you. May I have a motion for executive session?
Motion to adjourn to executive session to review the employment history of a particular individual and the board will adjourn as soon as possible.